Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's The Longevity Lab MD podcast. We are discussing Dan Buettner's Blue Zones. So Jack, what are these blue zones?
So when we talk about blue zones, we're referring to 5 distinct regions across the globe. These places, Sardinia in Italy, Okinawa in Japan, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Icaria in Greece, and Loma Linda, California, have one remarkable thing in common. People there live significantly longer, often well into their 90s and hundreds.
Right, Jack, and what makes that fascinating isn't just the longevity itself, but how they're doing it. It's not about cutting-edge health tech or fancy diets, is it? It's simple things, almost old-fashioned practices. Like my favorite is how in Sardinia, dinner time is a full family, everyone's there kind of event.
Exactly, and it's what sets blue zones apart. It's not reliance on genetics alone. Instead, it's their daily practices. For instance, the Sardinian communal meals aren't just about connection. They're often paired with plant-based diets and moderate portions. Meanwhile, the Okinawans practice hara hachi bu, which means eating until you're 80% full. It inherently prevents overconsumption.
Kind of the opposite of what we're doing at those all-you-can-eat buffets, huh? What really resonated with me is what you said earlier about gardening. That ties into their way of life too, doesn't it?
Gardening plays a crucial role, yes. In places like Nicoya, Costa Rica, almost every centenarian I've read about tends their own garden, not just for the food it provides, but because of the subtle exercise. Bending, digging, walking. These low-intensity movements spread out across the day seem to have a profound impact.
It's like they're sneakily working out without ever stepping foot in a gym. And it's not just Sardinians or Nicoyans, right?
Correct. Across all 5 zones, there's this underlying theme. Their environments encourage activity naturally. Also, the Icarians in Greece, they're one of my favourite examples. They've virtually eliminated dementia. Their secret lies in an anti-inflammatory diet and slow, purposeful living.
I love that their slow living is productive, but not rushed. Like, they've hit life's jackpot of balance. And Jack, that's why I think people are drawn to this concept. It's both aspirational and accessible.
It is, and it's important to debunk some of the myths here. Longevity isn't a quick fix or about miracle pills. In fact, communities in blue zones have significantly lower healthcare costs, yet their traditional practices, like cooking from scratch or walking daily, don't cost anything extraordinary.
And isn't that a big takeaway for all of us? Longevity doesn't have to mean more doctor's visits or some fancy superfood craze. It's simpler than that. Are in 200. Okay, Jack, before we wrap up this bit, what about Loma Linda? What's their story?
The Seventh-day Adventists of Loma Linda. They live by strict principles, largely vegetarian diets, and a focus on rest like their weekly Sabbath, which keeps them not only physically healthy, but spiritually centered. Amazing results from something so consistent yet understated.
That consistency pays off. You don't see fads there. Just solid principles for living. So if I've got this straight, Jack, between these 5 places, it's less about natural-born luck and more about environment, movement, and lifestyle choices, right?
That's the essence of it. And as we move forward, we'll explore what we can actually take from these places and apply in our own lives. The Power 9 Principles of Longevity offer exactly that, a roadmap we'll dive into next. So as we mentioned, the Power 9 Principles are like a roadmap to the longevity we see in blue zones. Let's delve into these 9 key habits that the world's longest living communities have embraced. What's striking is how approachable they are. Things like moving naturally throughout the day, making plant-based diets a priority, and nurturing strong social bonds.
It's funny, isn't it? When we say move naturally, people might imagine something grand like hiking mountains. But this isn't about extreme fitness regimes, is it?
Exactly, Eric. It's about integrating movement into daily life. Take Centenarian Ushi in Okinawa, for example. She spent her days gardening, hosting friends, cooking, all forms of gentle, low-intensity activity. Over time, this kind of consistent movement builds resilience and prolongs health.
And it sounds like fun too, doesn't it? No gym memberships or slogging away on a treadmill. Just tending to your plants or going for a casual stroll. So effortless.
Precisely. And it's the combination of practices like this that adds up. Another integral aspect is their approach to food. The diets are dominantly plant-based, with staples like beans, greens, and whole grains. For instance, Okinawans historically relied on the purple sweet potato, nutrient-packed and vital to their diet.
And let's not forget the mindfulness involved in how they eat. Ushi herself practiced hara hachibu, stopping when she was about 80% full. I can only imagine how different that is from scarfing down fast food in front of the TV.
That mindful approach is transformational, especially when paired with communal meals. These aren't just opportunities to eat, but to connect. Families gather, they express gratitude for their food, and they cherish the time spent together. Whether it's a large family or a close group of friends, the bonds formed during these meals play a key role in emotional well-being.
And I think we miss that a lot today. In Blue Zones, mealtime is sacred, right? Gratitude before a meal, no screens, everyone around the table. It's as much about the people as it is about the food.
Absolutely, Eric. Those rituals allow people to slow down, savour their food, and genuinely connect with others. You know, for me personally, growing up in a family that prioritised dinner together every evening, it shaped such a strong sense of belonging. That kind of routine might seem small, but its impact is profound.
It really does stick with you, doesn't it? And I think about how many of us could improve our own lives by just sitting down regularly with loved ones to share a meal. Simple habit, big payoff.
That's the essence of the Power Nine. Small, intentional adjustments with immense benefits. And speaking of adjustments, the environment plays a huge role in longevity. In the next bit, let's delve into how communities can redesign their surroundings to nudge people toward healthier choices, just like in Albert Lee. You're going to love this story. Building on what we discussed about environments shaping healthy choices, one of the most inspiring examples comes from Albert Lea, a small community in Minnesota. By redesigning their surroundings, adding walkable streets, incorporating healthier food options in schools and workplaces, and fostering social connections, they saw not only improved quality of life, but also a 30% drop in healthcare costs.
It's incredible, Jack. I mean, imagine reshaping an entire town's habits just by tweaking the environment. And that 30% drop in healthcare costs? That's a massive number. It really shows the power of these small but thoughtful changes.
Absolutely. And it highlights just how practical these ideas are. For instance, something as simple as positioning healthier foods at eye level, whether in your own home or a grocery store, can subtly nudge better choices.
It's like when I move my fruit bowl to the counter. Suddenly, I'm actually eating apples instead of the chips buried in the pantry. That's the idea, isn't it? Simple nudges.
Exactly, Eric. It's all about making the healthy choice the easy default. And then there's the transformative power of walking. Incorporating it into a daily routine, getting a little extra distance by parking farther away or taking the stairs, makes a significant impact over time without feeling like a chore.
I love that. No gym memberships needed, right? It's the opposite of making health this Herculean effort. Speaking of changes, though, how do you think AI or tech fits into all this? Like, how could it play a role in creating these healthy defaults?
Great question. AI can amplify these principles by personalizing wellness recommendations. For example, an app might suggest making walking part of your commute by analyzing your typical patterns, or it could help redesign meal plans aligned with Blue Zone diets. The beauty lies in how adaptable AI is. It can integrate longevity-inspired habits seamlessly into our digital-driven lives.
That's really exciting, a way to combine humanity's longest-lived traditions with cutting-edge tools we already rely on. Though, as you've said many times, it's not about creating dependency on technology. It's about enhancing our choices with it, right?
Exactly. Technology shouldn't replace intentional living. It should guide us gently toward healthier habits. And ultimately, whether it's through AI or small environmental tweaks, the focus stays on community and simplicity, those timeless keys to longevity.
Timeless is the right word. This whole Blue Zones journey shows us that longevity isn't about chasing trendy solutions. It's about embracing what's sustainable and fulfilling. Jack, this has been such an enriching conversation. Any last advice for our listeners?
I'd say start small. Focus on one shift, say rearranging your kitchen to make wholesome foods more accessible or setting aside time for a daily walk. Over time, these little changes compound into something transformative. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about consistency.
And there we have it, folks. Longevity lessons boiled down to simplicity, community, and intentionality. Thank you for joining us today. Jack, as always, it's been a pleasure sharing this virtual table with you.
Likewise, Eric. And to everyone listening, here's to making those small, impactful changes for a longer, healthier life.
On that note, we'll see you next time. Take care.